Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I'm not sure what you're doing. It's fun. People have been telling me they're listening to this first thing in the morning, and some listen while they're driving in their truck during the day. And if it's my son Chris listening, he's in Tomorrowland. It's already tomorrow there. He lives in Korea. So it's always fun to check in with him and see how tomorrow's going. But anyway, this is, I think, episode 20 of Nobody's Fault podcast. We're going to get right into it. And if I could see the thing I need to click on, right there it is. Matthew chapter 20. It would help with these. When we get done, I'm going to talk to you about teaching your dog and horse some important lessons. It'll also apply to your kids. So hang in there. Matthew chapter 20. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. When he had agreed with the laborers for a denarius for the day, he sent them into his vineyard. And he went out about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And to those he said, You go into the vineyard also, and whatever is right I will give you. And so they went. Again he went out about the 6th and the 9th hour, and did the same thing. And about the 11th hour he went out and found others standing around. And he said to them, Why have you been standing here idle all day? They said to him, Because no one hired us. He said to them, You go into the vineyard too. Now when evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, Call the laborers and pay them their wages, starting with the last group to the first. When those hired about the 11th hour came, each one received a denarius. And so when those hired first came, they thought they would receive more, but each of them also received a denarius. When they received it, they grumbled at the landowner, saying, Those who were hired last worked for only 1 hour, and you gave them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day's work in the scorching heat. But he answered them and said to one of them, Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree to work with me for a denarius? Take what is yours and go. But I want to give to this last person the same as to you. Is it not lawful for me to do what I want with what is my own? Or is your eye envious because I am generous? So the last shall be first and the first last. As Jesus was about to go up to Jerusalem, he took the 12 disciples aside by themselves, and on the road he said to them, Behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and scribes, and they will condemn him to death. And they will hand him over to the Gentiles to mock and flog and crucify. And on the third day he will be raised up. Then the mother of the sons of Zebedee came to Jesus with her sons, bowing down and making a request of him. And he said to her, What do you desire? And she said to him, Say that in your kingdom these 2 sons of mine shall sit, one at your right and one at your left. But Jesus replied, You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I am about to drink? They said to him, We are able. He said to them, My cup you shall drink, but to sit at my right and my left is not mine to give, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared by my Father. And after hearing this, the other 10 disciples became indignant with the 2 brothers. But Jesus called them to himself and said, You know what the rulers of the Gentiles domineer over them, and those in high position exercise authority over them. It is not this way among you, but whoever wants to become prominent among you shall be your servant, and whoever desires to be first among you shall be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. As they were leaving Jericho, a large crowd followed him. And 2 people who were blind, sitting by the road, hearing that Jesus was passing by, cried out, Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David. But the crowd sternly warned them to be quiet. Yet they cried out all the more, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us." And Jesus stopped and called to them and said, "What do you want me to do for you?" And they said to him, "Lord, we want our eyes to be opened." Moved with compassion, Jesus touched their eyes, and immediately they regained their sight and followed him. So, I'm starting to think that if you can't, I don't want you to train our kids if you can't train a dog. I'll explain. Or maybe a horse either. I think this matters. I think this should be a required class for teachers. Grow something. Train a dog before we let you work with the nation's most valuable resource. Now, I was a teacher. I can pick on teachers. I was a teacher. I taught graphic arts at a juvenile correctional facility. You had to be highly qualified to get in my class. Like at least a felony and a couple of prior placements with the state and maybe a behavior disorder and a learning disorder and throw some meds in on top of that. So I'll pick on teachers. I think if you can't grow a vegetable garden or train a dog, I'm not sure you're qualified to raise a kid. I'm just saying. Didn't we all descend from farmers who raised plants and animals? There's a lot of training that goes with nurturing something and growing it and learning how to care for something and watching the progress and encouraging the process and caring as it goes. I know a lot of teachers get into this profession because they care for kids. I agree. I think we could have better teachers if they had some more experience growing or training something. A horse is 1,000-pound animal that can squish you or bite you or do all kinds of bad things. And I think a lot of people think you can control a horse or control a dog. I think that's wrong. I think we need to lead our horses and our dogs and our children into making good decisions. You lead them into making good decisions. You train them to make good decisions. You can't control a horse. A horse and a dog and a human all have free will. Free will. You don't get to jump in their little brains and turn some buttons and stuff. You'd call that a robot or a puppet. Living creatures are different. We think we can control people or animals. No. You can train them to make good decisions. It's the same for our kids. We need to lead them and equip them with the skills necessary to live as free from outward controls as possible. Outward controls, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. A good example of what I'm talking about is Daniel in the Bible. He was a young guy. Israel gets destroyed by the Babylonians. First a lot of people die. Majority of the leaders of his country were put to death. They were taken into captivity, a select group of people. So Daniel was a young man. So picturing him going off to college in Babylon. A crazy culture. Tons of pagan idol worship and crazy stuff. I think they had human sacrifices and just crazy stuff. I'm pretty sure he probably was homeschooled. I'm just guessing. Anyway, he was prepared, and when he got there, he didn't bow to that crazy culture. Somehow he had a strong set of convictions that he went into that with as a young man. I would like to see our young people go into the world with that. And unfortunately, I think a lot of our young are not prepared to go in and face all kinds of things that could be dangerous or deadly or addictive or harmful in so many ways. I don't think we're doing a good enough job. The king of Babylon, I think it was it King Cyrus? No, Nebuchadnezzar. Said that Daniel was 10 times better than the best of Babylon. 10 times better. Wouldn't it be fun to know that your kids are going into the culture and your kids are 10 times more equipped than the people that are already there? That would give you a lot more hope, wouldn't it? Many things end up controlling people. So if we raise children that have self-control, they'll be less likely to be controlled by fear, substances, oppressive government that they help create. So anyway, what got me thinking about this is there's a dog training method. It's well, people would argue about that. The way it's being implemented under the name a positive reward-based training. I know people, really successful dog trainers, have been using a positive reward-based training for a long time, but it seems like there's a newer, like pared down version of it that like the kind you'll pick up at some big box store like Petco or something, and it's based on Pavlov's dog experiment. So there's a treat and a reward system, right? I think there's a fatal flaw in this kind of training method. I mean, it can be literally fatal for either a dog that bites someone and has to get put down, that is fatal for the dog, or the dogs maim people in horrible ways. These dogs have higher failure rates because of one simple thing. They were trained in a safe environment, but they weren't trained with distractions. And there's some way of going about this when we're raising our kids. We can't make everything safe all the time. They have to be able to discern on their own when things maybe are dangerous or outside their capabilities, or maybe this isn't the right time. They need to be able to discern these things and read the situation better, like your dog. I keep my big dog on a leash when we're outside to protect my dog from being dumb. She has a lot of energy, and she would bolt right in front of cars. And yes, there are ways of doing more training with a dog to keep that from happening. We're just not there yet with her. It's a scheduling thing more than anything. So the dogs that are trained in the safe environment with treats, you take them out in the real world, and they're the ones that bolt in front of a car or bite a little kid or something. You have to train in an environment with distractions. Daniel went into a bad place, and he handled all the distractions. He had everything in front of him that would tempt most young men in a bad way. Money, women, fine food, a lazy life. He could have done anything that would destroy most other men, and he made it through. And he didn't just make it through, he was able to lead and then actually help rebuild his nation. So I think Daniel's just a great example for us on how we need to be really careful about this task of raising our kids. And I would just like to see somehow some confidence in our politicians and our teachers. Can they grow something? Can they grow even a garden, a small business, a family? Those would help qualify someone for those leadership positions that are really important. It's just me thinking, me talking. So I guess what I'm saying is, show me some fruit. What have you grown? Garden, family, business. Now we're talking. On a side note, if you can train a cat, I think you could lead nations. Is there a book on that? Somebody should write a book about how to train cats. I think that would be a good seller. Anyway, see you tomorrow.